Hey guys, just a reminder, this is not official medical advice. For such, please seek an appointment with a licensed medical provider. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Explain This. I'm with the star of the show, Robin Riddle. Robin, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm happy to be here, and we've got such an interesting topic today.
Yeah.
You guys have heard of it. We talk about it all the time in the office. It's the Bredesen Protocol. Where should we start with this?
Well, what is the Bredesen Protocol? What is it used for?
Yeah.
So, the Bredesen Protocol was created by Dr. Dale Bredesen, and it's a very comprehensive, personalized plan that's designed to prevent, stop, or even reverse Alzheimer's disease. So this is something specific for Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline.
Okay, so it's a protocol for Alzheimer's dementia.
Yes.
You guys probably heard of the book. Today we're going to be focusing specifically on the protocol.
Yeah.
All right.
So whenever we are in office, the big place that we see this is whenever we are doing our Cleveland panels. Because on our Cleveland Heart panel, one of the things that we look for is APOE, which we've done a video on this before. But anyone who carries APOE4, which is a gene mutation, they are at a slightly higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. One copy of APOE4 increases your risk for Alzheimer's about 3 times higher than someone who does not have that. 2 copies of APOE4 is a 15 times higher risk. So it doesn't, if you have a copy, 1 or 2 copies of APOE4, it does not mean that you will absolutely get Alzheimer's, but you are at risk. So those are the kind of patients that we are talking preemptively about, hey, this is, the Bredesen Protocol. These are the things that we need to be looking at and working on to prevent ever getting there.
Yep.
So this is also a protocol that is used to treat people who are already experiencing cognitive decline or people who have already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But of course, prevention is always the best way to do things.
Yep.
But the protocol does also show the ability to reverse some of that cognitive decline. So it's super cool.
And this is a completely naive question, but that's why I'm over here. Is there like a sequence? When I think protocol, I think of like a sequence of things you do, or is it just like one blanket, like
hit it all?
Okay.
Hit it all. Yeah. Okay. So all the things that are in the protocol are all things that we want to be doing.
Okay.
If they're applicable to that patient, which will make more sense as we talk about it.
Got it.
So there is a book called The End of Alzheimer's by Dr. Dale Bredesen, and then they also have a second book that is The End of Alzheimer's Protocol.
Okay.
I find that the protocol one is a little bit easier for patients to understand, a little bit less clinical, a little bit more like step-by-step. These are the things to do.
Okay.
So anytime that we see somebody that has a APOE4 on their Cleveland, we are recommending that they read that book just so that they have a grasp on things.
One copy, not 2?
Either one.
Either one. Okay.
Either one. Yep.
Cool.
We recommend that they read the book so you've got a grasp on things. But for patients who want the short and quick version, I'll do a condensed Cliff Notes for you.
That's my type of video right there.
It's a big book. This is a short video, so it pans out.
All right, let's rock and roll.
So Dr. Bredesen's approach focuses on treating the multiple root causes of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline rather than simply managing symptoms, because that's about all that's out there right now. If you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's, there's different medicines that are really expensive and may or may not work, and that's kind of the only options that you are given. So this looks for other things. Protocol is grounded in the idea that Alzheimer's is not a single disease, but is more a group of conditions that affect the brain in various ways. So, of course, it's going to require a multifactorial treatment approach as well. So, let's deep dive into the steps of the protocol.
Can I ask another dumb question?
Absolutely.
I know I've heard you say multifactorial, but what does that mean?
Lots of factors.
Lots of factors. Multiple factors.
There we go.
Okay.
So first thing is trying to decide what we feel like the root causes are for that patient's Alzheimer's. And there's a lot of different options that we're going to be looking at. So Dr. Bredesen identifies a lot of different potential underlying factors that can contribute to the development of Alzheimer's or dementia. And then the protocol aims to address those things. So one of the big things we're looking at is chronic inflammation.
Yep. Inflammation
in brain and body. We talk about inflammation all the time here at Performance Medicine. It's really the root of most diseases is chronic inflammation. So we are looking for where that inflammation is coming from, and we're working on it. Hormonal imbalances. Of course, we're all about hormones here. So insulin resistance is a hormonal imbalance that we are definitely looking at. Insulin resistance, again, we talk about it all the time, will will also be a root cause for inflammation.
Okay.
So for people who have kind of that low-lying elevated A1C, I see this all the time. Patients will have a hemoglobin A1C, which is the 3-month average of blood glucose readings, that's been pre-diabetic for 15 or 20 years. And they tell me, oh, well, my doctor said it's not a big deal. As long as it stays under 6.5, I'm fine. Well, we have chronic inflammation that's happening for all of those years when that A1C is elevated. So those are the kind of patients I think about with this that gets missed all the time. So insulin resistance, low thyroid function. So of course, checking full thyroid panel, estrogen or testosterone deficiency. So women who have gone through menopause, men later in life when their testosterone levels start to drop, all of those can be root contributing causes.
So interesting. Like all those things you said, I feel like happen a lot.
Oh yeah.
So these
absolutely.
are like real life things that we can get on top of.
Yeah, absolutely. And easy things to fix. You've just got to have someone looking at them.
Yeah.
Nutritional deficiencies, so like B12 levels, vitamin D levels. Again, pretty much all this stuff is on our Cleveland panel. So we love our Cleveland panel. It's a great way to know what your risks are and how we can address those. Toxicities, so exposure to heavy metals, molds, and other neurotoxins can be a big trigger here as well. I had a patient in a previous practice that had been a metalsmith or something, like he worked with metal his whole life and started developing major cognitive decline. And part of it was he had all these heavy metals in his body because he'd been, welding and handling all this kind of stuff his entire life and had major neurological effects coming from it. So it's amazing to see the reversal of those things whenever you remove those toxins from the body.
That's incredible.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
So like I said, insulin resistance, poor blood sugar regulation is a really big one. It causes a lot of neurodegeneration. Previous brain injuries, so anyone who's had chronic concussions or chronic brain trauma, anything like that. Chronic stress can be another underlying issue, which everybody has chronic stress. But those elevated cortisol levels over time can have a very negative effect on the brain. And then poor sleep quality. So lack of restorative sleep is huge on our brain function. We need to get into that good, deep restorative sleep so that the brain can rest and rebuild. So this would be people that have sleep apnea, things like that are not getting good sleep. That will increase risks, and that can be a root cause here.
It's so interesting how all these things can lead to, something like an Alzheimer, and you can address each individual one.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
super interesting.
So Bredesen Protocol, again, we're working on identifying these factors and then working to reverse them. So some big key components with the protocol itself. Dietary interventions are really big. So he is really big on the modified ketogenic diet is what his recommendation is. So this is designed to encourage fat metabolism over carb metabolism. So it helps the body to enter a state called ketosis, where it burns fat for energy rather than glucose for energy. And research does suggest that ketosis supports brain function and can help with repair of damaged neurons.
I've heard so many times when people get on like a keto type diet, they feel clear up in their brain.
Absolutely. Because so many people have that insulin resistance that we're talking about. And when you switch over to a keto diet, we're really eliminating like the fuel for that insulin resistance.
Yes.
So it's crazy how quickly the thinking and the mind can clear up when we get rid of all those carbs that we don't need.
Yeah.
So diet includes eating lots of healthy fats. So avocados, coconut oil, olive oil, nuts, seeds, fatty fish like salmon, wild caught, not farm raised salmon. That needs to be a whole nother podcast. Low glycemic vegetables, so like your dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, all your non-starchy stuff. Really good high quality protein, so grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised eggs, even plant-based protein like beans. But we're really limiting overall the processed carbs. So we really want to restrict the processed sugars, any kind of refined grains, high-carb foods like pastas and breads. All that makes inflammation and insulin resistance worse.
Again, we're just trying to decrease inflammation with all this.
That's a huge part of this protocol is get rid of inflammation.
Okay.
And then making sure that we're eating good nutrient-rich food. So things high in antioxidants. Eat the rainbow. Yeah. So all your fruits and veggies in all the different colors. All those different colors are different nutrients. So don't just stick to your greens. Get all the ones because that's going to really help with any oxidative stress and, again, inflammation. Exercise is another key piece of the Bredesen Protocol. So physical activity does play a critical role in maintaining our brain health and supporting neurogenesis, which is actually creation of new neurons in the brain. So the protocol recommends aerobic exercise, so things like brisk walking, running, cycling, swimming, anything like that that can increase blood flow to the brain. Strength training, we want to help maintain muscle, promote overall health. We just did another podcast about this. Muscle is critical for all parts of aging. So having, even, if we're older and a little bit more frail, we can get in there with 5-pound weights. We don't have to be in there, trying to squat our body weight, but some sort of strength training is really helpful. And then mind-body centering exercises. So like yoga and Tai Chi, things like that help to center and reduce stress and improve balance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So balance, like physical balance?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool.
Yep, absolutely. So regular exercise is also going to help to regulate our blood sugar levels, insulin levels, again, reduces inflammation. It increases the production of something called a brain-derived neurotropic factor, and it's a protein that promotes brain health. So exercise really is good for us. Another key element would be sleep. Like we talked about, like we have to optimize sleep. So sleep is absolutely critical for cognitive function. We all know, we've all had some point in our life where our sleep was terrible. And you walk around like you're in a fog. I mean, I worked night shift for 7 years. I think I was in a fog habitually for years.
Did that take you a while to recover from that?
Absolutely.
So that affects you not just during that time, but post.
It messes with everything. And then I switched hospitals that I was at. This is when I was on RN. So I had been working night shift for 7 years. So I had a set schedule of 3 nights on, 4 nights off, which was always a hard flip because you work your 3 nights and, I may sleep 3 or 4 hours during the day and then go back to work that night. And then your flip day, you basically just sleep the whole entire day. And then you kind of are a zombie for a day. And by the time you actually start feeling better, it's time to go back onto your nights again and you're up for 24 hours straight. Like, it was awful. Ugh. And then I started working day shift and I was just as sleep deprived because you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get there and you're working 12 or 13 hour shifts. So you're in this fog of like, where am I today?
What day is this?
I didn't know what's going on. I could take care of my patients. I knew what I was doing there, but otherwise, like, I was useless. So having really good sleep is really important for the brain function and for the brain to be able to remove neurotoxins. So Bredesen Protocol really emphasizes sleep hygiene. So this means maintaining a very consistent sleep schedule, which night shifters, swing shifters, we can't do that. Reducing exposure to blue light before bedtime. I tell my patients this all the time. Don't be scrolling your phone. Don't lay there and doom scroll for an hour before bed. Don't watch TV. If you need to do something before bed, read a book, something like that. Avoid the blue light. And then ensure that we're sleeping in a cool, dark, quiet environment.
Yep.
On top of that, I really like to encourage people, bed by 10 p.m. Don't be night owls. Don't be staying up super late. We need to kind of follow that natural circadian rhythm. Good sleep quality. So we want to make sure that we're getting sufficient deep sleep. So getting into that REM and non-REM to allow the brain to rest and detoxify. Yep. Address any sleep disorders. So conditions like sleep apnea are, again, huge for this. So if you're snoring, that is a big sign of sleep apnea. It would be a great reason to get a sleep apnea test done. Get your CPAP if you need one. Stress reduction, again, is a really big one here. So chronic stress and elevated levels of cortisol can cause damage to the brain and contribute to that cognitive decline. So things like mindfulness practices like meditation, deep breathing. There's an app out now that is somatic exercises, which are just very centered on, are focused on centering the body. Like you're just focusing in on yourself. Progressive muscle relaxation, things like that can really help to lower those cortisol levels.
Interesting.
Psychological support. So sometimes if, the stress is from an outside source, something that's going on in your life, therapy or counseling can be really beneficial here. A lot of times we'll see emotional stress, anxiety, depression, things like that go along with a diagnosis like this. So having a way, like an outlet for that, a way to help cope with that better. And then supplements. We love supplements.
We love supplements.
For everything. And there's some certain supplements that are really beneficial whenever we're looking through the Bredesen Protocol. So vitamin D, B12, your omega-3 fatty acids, all these are great. Curcumin or turmeric, this is helping with inflammation. Magnesium, there's all kinds of different magnesium. You know, we have our Dr. Rogers blend, which has a great blend of a lot of different types of magnesium. Magnesium L-threonate specifically is really good for the brain, crosses that blood-brain barrier very well.
Okay.
Resveratrol comes from red wine. Don't drink the wine.
Nope.
Just take the supplement.
Just take the supplement.
Just take
guys.
the supplement. You know, the whole like red wine's good for you. I'm really conflicted on that.
It's debatable.
It's debatable. Alcohol is a toxin and it can have a very negative effect on the brain. So if we're already dealing with some cognitive decline, drinking alcohol is not a good idea. And then NAC and acetylcysteine. This is a great detoxing supplement. So these would all be great things to be on and things that we talk about with this protocol.
Yeah.
So addressing those hormonal imbalances. Again, this is something if we're doing a Cleveland, we're already looking at hormones. We're already talking about hormones. So thyroid function, you know, if things are off there, we're either talking about supplements to correct the thyroid or we're starting on some thyroid medication. NP thyroid is my absolute favorite. It's a natural desiccated thyroid hormone. So people's bodies tend to respond way better to that type of thyroid medication versus a synthetic.
Okay.
So like the levothyroxine, Synthroid, things like that. Not a huge fan of those for most patients.
Yeah. Is it mainly thyroid issues with the hormones, or is it just
It's also, also our sex hormones. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone levels.
Okay.
And a lot of times, again, this cognitive decline is coming a little bit later in life where hormone levels have dropped.
Yep.
So rebalancing those hormone levels, or again, if this is someone who we've just found this APOE on a Cleveland, a random Cleveland, and they're younger, then we're talking about like, hey, as you hit menopause or as you get older as a man, these levels are going to start to drop. This is something we really need to stay on top of. So for women who are higher risk, getting them on hormones as soon as they start to go through perimenopause, preventing ever having those big drops in hormones would be important.
And by higher risk, you're basically going back to the APOE4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or strong family history if
Got it.
someone hasn't had something like that done.
Okay.
So balancing out those hormones really well. And then again, insulin is another hormone that we're looking at. So working on that insulin resistance portion of things. If we identify toxins as being an issue, you know, there's different ways to help with that. So whether it's heavy metals or mold or other environmental exposures, depending on what the exposure is, we're wanting to get those toxins out of the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another big piece is cognitive stimulation. So we can't let the mind take too much of a break. This is also where, you know, you're doom scrolling and all that kind of stuff, watching mindless TV, like that's not something that's going to help us here. So we really need to keep the brain working.
Yep.
Learn new skills, learn a new hobby, watch educational videos, try to, you know, learn to build something, whatever it is that you're interested in, learn something new. Doing different memory exercises. So working puzzles. My kids think I'm such a grandma for this, but I love puzzles. I never have time to work puzzles, but I do love them.
That's so funny.
If I had like a specific table that I could always leave one out on, I would do it. I'm very competitive with puzzles.
I bet.
I got to work it fast. It's like a family thing. Every family trip that we go on, we take puzzles and it's like who can find the piece the fastest, and then we get mad at whoever found it. But it's fun. It's good for the brain.
It's so interesting because on the show I've learned, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I've learned you're passionate about cooking.
Absolutely.
And now you're passionate about puzzles.
Puzzles.
Who would have thought?
It's great for the brain. That's why I will never have Alzheimer's because I love my puzzles.
I've also heard ping pong. Ping pong is like good.
Yeah.
Apparently
Yes.
good.
The hand-eye coordination stuff.
Yeah.
I actually took a ping pong class in the 7th grade. It was literally an extracurricular activity for ping pong.
You know what? And you're sharper because of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm horrible at it actually, but I'm going to go more like with the tennis and pickleball side of things.
There you go.
Because then we're getting the physical activity as well as the hand-eye coordination.
That's right.
Those are fun.
That's right.
So yeah, learn a new skill, learn to play pickleball. So any kind of intellectually engaging activity is going to be really important. and also social engagement. Again, a lot of times when we're looking at patients who actually have Alzheimer's, they tend to isolate themselves.
Absolutely.
So this is something that we really don't want. We need social engagement. We need to be around friends and family. So you're talking and you're having to use your brain. We don't want to just be sitting quiet in the corner.
Yeah.
And there's ways to monitor. So there's different little tests and things. Like there's tests that we learned back in nursing school about like your clock draw and like memorizing certain words. You give the patient so many words and have them repeat them back in a minute and 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So there's little tests that you can do. The Bredesen Protocol does go through some of those, but different types of testing to monitor that change in the memory as we go along through the treatment as well.
Now, I'm assuming that the APOE4 doesn't change. So
correct.
Drawing that again, that's not still going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other components of the Cleveland that we're looking at, those other biomarkers, so insulin and hormones and inflammation and nutrient levels, all of those are things that we do monitor as we go along to make sure that we are getting to the optimal levels there.
This is a weird question, but what does it mean to reverse it? Like, does that mean like, because obviously, I guess it's just all through these levels and the way you interact with the world.
Yeah.
Is kind of what, there's not like a test for it.
Not really.
Okay.
But what you're seeing is memory is coming back. You know, if you've got someone who is full-blown Alzheimer's and we're trying to reverse, what we're looking for is that symptomatic stuff.
Sure.
So we're not losing the short term or the long term because, you know, they're usually more what I see with Alzheimer's is like the short term loss. We're back, 20, 30 years ago in our brain. So being able to remember people now, today, remember what we did yesterday, what we have for lunch, that kind of stuff. Having that closer recall, being able just to function independently for some of these patients is a huge deal.
You did an incredible job of getting this protocol in this video. I would have never made it through the book. So I'm going to have to watch this episode again, like I'm sure some of you will. But I'm taking from this, like, this is stuff that we all should be doing anyway.
Absolutely.
Live this way. And then I'm sure all of us have a little bit of a healthy fear of coming down with something like Alzheimer's. And,
absolutely.
Living this way just seems... we can all do it.
And a negative APOE, like even if you don't have the APOE4 gene, doesn't mean you can't get Alzheimer's. Like there's so many factors that go into this. Yeah. APOE is just one of those things that cues us like, hey, we need to be extra careful with you. Yeah. But if you lead a terrible lifestyle and eat junk all the time and you're a smoker and you don't exercise and all that stuff can lead to cognitive decline too.
It just increases your risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, watch this episode again. Robin, thank you for explaining the Bredesen Protocol.
Absolutely.
You name it, we explain it. As always, we'll see y'all next time.
Don't go away.